Today's episode of the Heartland Author Podcast will be the final episode of this podcast for the worst year of my life, 2020, as well as the Season 2 finale. I have a lot to cover for this episode, so stick around. Welcome to the Heartland Author Podcast. I am Aaron Apollo Camp, an author, a very soon-to-be poet, and the host of this podcast. Today's episode will serve as both a season and calendar year finale, and I have a lot of ground to cover today. In the first part of this episode, I will provide an end-of-year review of the progress on my many book writing projects. In the second part of this episode, I will provide a preview of my writing goals for 2021. In the third part of this episode, I will talk about my new Lenovo laptop and my experience with it so far. This will be a lengthy episode, so it is time to get started. Year 2020 will probably be the last year for a long time in which I did not publish any new books. A lot has gone on in my life this year, and while I have not been directly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, most of what has gone on in my life has not been good for me and my family. At the start of this year, my mother became extremely ill. When she had to be hospitalized, it was discovered that a non-malignant tumor in her colon became badly inflamed, blocked her colon, and caused her colon to swell enough to cause complete loss of excretory functions. She underwent surgery and needed a colostomy bag for several months. My mom has recovered very well, and although her recovery was slow, she no longer needs a colostomy bag, and she now has a four-wheeled walker that has made it much easier for her to move around the house where my mother and I live. On April 6th of this year, I found my father dead in his garage from sudden cardiac death. A month earlier, I began taking an antidepressant called citalopram to treat depression. While I was riding Lady in the Fast Lane last year, and for several months afterward, I regularly had suicidal thoughts and felt completely uninterested in doing anything. I feel much better since I started my antidepressant regimen, although I still sometimes have depression episodes, but they are much milder and for much shorter periods of time than before going on an antidepressant. Because of everything that has gone on in my life this year, I have gotten much less writing work done than I would have liked to this year. Hopefully, 2021 will be much more productive for me. I have numerous writing goals in 2021, and with a new laptop that I will discuss a little later in this episode, I hope to be able to meet as many of my writing goals as possible. I hope to be able to self-publish at least 3 books in 2021. I will begin work very shortly on a series of multiverse haiku poetry collections, and my goal in 2021 is to self-publish at least 2 books from this series, which will be titled Super Haikus. I am currently working on several fiction and nonfiction book writing projects, and my goal is to self-publish at least 1 fiction or nonfiction book I am either currently writing or plan on beginning to write very soon before the end of 2021. Another writing goal of mine is to complete outlining work on at least 4 fiction works, regardless of whether or not I can publish the works before the end of 2021. I also have writing goals for my Medium publications, Apollo Corner and Ripos Spotech Plus. For each publication, my goals are to publish at least 30 posts for all of 2021, with at least 7 in each quarter of next year and at least 2 in each month of next year. I also have a writing goal for Wattpad. I have not yet published anything to Wattpad, but that will change in 2021. It is my goal to publish at least 4 works on Wattpad over the course of 2021. My username on Wattpad is Aaron Apollo Camp. There are no spaces in my Wattpad username. Earlier this month, my mother bought me a Lenovo IdeaPad Flex 5 laptop. I have been using my new laptop for nearly 2 weeks now, and I love it. The version of the IdeaPad I am now a proud user of has the AMD Ryzen 3 quad-core processor with AMD Radeon graphics. My new laptop has only 4 GB of DDR4 RAM, but with 128 GB of solid-state storage, I'm able to set up a portion of the solid-state drive as virtual memory, and I still have more than enough room for my writing and other productivity applications without any memory, storage, or overheating issues. I have the Microsoft 365 personal subscription, and part of that is 1 terabyte of OneDrive cloud storage, which I use to store my writing files in the cloud. This represents a significant upgrade for me, as my previous laptop, which I used for a year, was a 14-inch HP Stream laptop that had the same amount of RAM, but only 32 gigabytes of eMMC storage, and I could not update my previous laptop to the current build of Windows 10 because there was not enough hard drive space in my previous laptop. I had no problem whatsoever updating my new laptop to the current build of Windows 10. My new laptop is faster in every aspect than my previous laptop, with some programs, especially Shotcut, running several times or more faster on my new laptop than my previous one, and my new laptop starts up and shuts down quicker than any other Windows computer I have used by a far margin. There are some programs I can run on my new laptop that I was unable to run on my previous laptop, most notably OBS Studio. The display on my new laptop is a 14-inch LCD display with a 1920 by 1080 resolution and touchscreen and 360-degree rotation capabilities. The display might be the largest 14-inch display I have ever seen. It produces impressive picture quality in many positions, and the multi-touch feature of the screen works very well as it has a balanced level of responsiveness, being responsive without being overly responsive. This is a massive improvement over my previous laptop, which had a display that lacked touchscreen features and had to be positioned in a small sweet spot to get good picture quality. My favorite part of my new laptop is the keyboard. For a 14-inch laptop with front-facing speakers on each side of the keyboard, the keys on the built-in keyboard are relatively large, and the typing experience feels natural, comfortable, and awesome. I make fewer typos with my new laptop than with my previous laptop, which had a relatively cramped keyboard. Speaking of the speakers on my new laptop are crisp and clear. The built-in microphone is a dual-array microphone, which I'm using right now to record this podcast episode, and as you can tell, it records good audio. The webcam is my least favorite feature of this laptop, as while it is capable of recording 720p video and has a privacy switch feature that works very well, the webcam is quite grainy, as a lot of built-in laptop webcams are. I can edit video to make videos recorded with my webcam less grainy, but I hope to be able to get a USB webcam sometime in the first quarter of next year at the earliest. It has been a difficult 2020 for me, but I hope to have a far more productive 2021. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding you to write your imagination and have a safe and happy new year. See y'all next year! You can learn more about my writing projects at authoraac.wixsite.com/site. You can also find me on Twitter and Facebook at AuthorAAC and on Instagram at Aaron Apollo Camp Writes. You can email me at campaaronapollo@outlook.com or campaaronapollo@gmail.com.
Copyright 2020 by Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of the audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode in any form without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except for reuse permitted by fair use guidelines under United States copyright law. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.